Good afternoon. This is Green Beverly with special guest, the Sharing Wheel, which is me. And today we have Brian Sadler, Vice President of Solaris Renewables.
Hello, Sean.
Hey,
thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
So we're Solaris Renewables is a local full-service solar installer. Been operating in the area since 2012, and we provide solutions for homeowners and small businesses for solar, battery systems, smart panels, and electrical services. And we help guide homeowners with different financing options. The education is which we're really big on and kind of differentiate on, as well as focusing on the aesthetics of the solar system with premium materials and the installation techniques for wire management, equipment placement, as well as the warranties and customer experience is something that we really focus on as well.
We'll get more to that for sure. And we also have Dean Berg of Green Beverly. Hello, Dean.
Hi, Sean. How are you today?
Good. Nice
Excellent.
to see you. Yeah.
So, I'm Dean Berg. I'm the Executive Director of Green Beverly, and at Green Beverly, we focus on helping our local Beverly residents and businesses along their journey to being more environmentally sustainable. And that includes everything from pollinator gardens to food waste to clean energy like solar to transportation options and to waste options. So happy to partner with Solaris Renewables on the solar side.
Yeah. So Brian, if a Beverly homeowner or someone local wanted to go with solar and they approached you, you sort of walk us through the process of that?
Absolutely. So we cover most of Massachusetts and southern New England and southern Maine, but we're based in Danvers. I happen to live in Beverly. We have other employees live in Beverly, and with Green Beverly being also near and dear to my heart, we do a lot of installations and in the area, like you mentioned. So customers reach out to us in a variety of fashions. Obviously, if they come through Green Beverly from a solar coach or through one of their programs, they have general inquiry box, then they kind of do an introduction and have Green Beverly there to support the initial conversation. We also have folks come to our website through manufacturing partnerships and other digital formats, things like that. We also probably 60% of our customers come through our referral program. So happy customers, hopefully continue to make more happy customers.
Right.
And so generally speaking, they reach out either by web on a web form, excuse me, or a call in, or sometimes an email inquiry, things like that. And then they basically are directed to our inside sales team. Our inside sales team communicates them to get them a schedule that works for them for their initial assessment. And that initial assessment is usually at this point, since post-pandemic, I guess, is usually virtual. We also do in-home, so some folks are more comfortable with that. So we kind of let the customer decide what they would prefer. And luckily, our kind of presentation and process translates wonderfully to an online process as it does in an in-home experience. So either way, the customer's going to have essentially the same assessment where we've already gotten at the actual assessment, we've gotten obviously their address, kind of basic information, maybe either an electric bill or about what they pay per month on electric bill, kind of what their goals, what their interest is, and what they're hoping to accomplish. If they're interested in solar and battery, they don't know, all that, so we kind of get a basic touch. And then we basically have these tools that are able to see the property from not only satellite imagery, but now near map imagery, which is actual planes flying overhead, which kind of spooked me out a little bit at first,
Really?
but then
Wow.
realized that it's these planes flying overhead are getting LiDAR data, which is showing the representation of height between trees, buildings, roads, and kind of everything in our environment. And we're able to use a tool like that to do a general fit, and then we give that to our rep who's going to meet with the customer. They kind of work up what they see on site, what the customers mention their goals are, and come up with an initial proposal. Then we go through a presentation, which is, tailored mostly for the education, who we are, what we do, what products and services we offer, how does solar work, right? Kind of a solar 101,
Sure.
right? Yeah. And we have a diagram that actually explains all the pieces and parts and how it works. And then that kind of leads into the incentive pieces, then how financing and what those options look like, a little bit about why electricity is so expensive in our region and why, solar is so heavily supported. And then that, through that kind of presentation, obviously asking questions throughout and checking in, make sure that the homeowner has all the questions answered, they understand what they're looking at. Then it leads us to a proposal where they can see what solar actually looks like on their home and real numbers of performance, incentives, cost savings analysis, and then, financing options. How do you want to go about it, right?
Right.
So we go through all that, obviously answer questions, we review the electric bill together. So that's kind of we asked for about an hour, so that's kind of an initial look, and it is a lot of information that you receive in that time, especially since solar it's a relatively newer product, right? I compare it a lot to cars. Like when we all go look for a vehicle, we know it probably has 4 wheels, does it have 2 or 4 doors? Like we kind of all understand that, like what it means to look for, shop, what features and benefits and cost structure we want to look for in a vehicle. But solar, most folks don't really know that. It's the first time they've looked at it. So that's why we really want to make sure that we give a good education and checking in the whole way and all the customers' questions are answered. And after that visit, we send them all the information via email and kind of wrap it up in terms of, so they have the information they looked at and supporting documentation, maybe some images of some of our more recent work, things like that. And then it's usually a follow-up scheduled to go through that journey. And then once they become a customer, they can electronically sign paperwork. All of the financing is done online. So it's a really simple and instant process in order to go solar and start the process. Once they're a customer, we then send out a drone survey, which is about a week after they become a customer, where it gives us really high definition images to make sure the roof looks good, the site looks good, anything that we missed or to focus details on. As well, it gives us measurements and another software program that it goes into, that we have measurements down to the 16th of an inch. So we can really make sure that fit that we discussed at the meeting is going to work, or does something need to move, or do we need to consider a different design layout, things like that. After that, then one of the project engineers will be scheduled to come to the customer's home, and they'll have the design and design options on a iPad that can be manipulated and work through different ideas with the customer if that's what they'd like to see. Different panels, different fit, other roof surfaces, things like that. But generally we have a good basis of what is possible. And then we look at, we gather information on the electrical system, and then manage the different wiring run options, the equipment placement for the inverter and other equipment. And they get to make those choices along with our team on, do you want this or that? Do you want it there or there? And that kind of thing. And then following that, then basically we get a professional set of plans made with annotated photos. Then we deliver that to the customer via email and with a scope of work, so they understand everything that they're getting and make sure that they, whatever questions they have, our whole team is on that email to support them. And then any changes that need to be made, things like that, we address, like a mutual agreed upon change order if need be. And then we're working through, now it's kind of the whole team. So now we have our, the sales team, they have our engineering team, and then our kind of support team, which would be our, utility and permitting coordinators, customer care team. Everyone's kind of got a piece and a role to play for that customer's project to advance through the next steps. Generally speaking, the next steps are that we apply to the utility for permission to construct.
Okay.
And that can take anywhere from days to weeks, and then it kind of depends on the utility, the location, the size of the system, and a variety of factors. And we manage all that on behalf of the customers. And that, I guess that's part of the overarching idea is that like this is a turnkey project and solution for the homeowner, and that we take care of everything. The homeowner does need to be available for about an hour for that initial assessment,
right?
And then for this, our project engineers to be there for about an hour. Excuse me, and then and then for the installation at the end. But it's a pretty light lift in terms of the homeowner. We take care of all of the technical pieces and the applications for the utility. And then once we have that back, we go to permitting with the town. I'll give a shout out to Beverly, who's now like amazing in terms of permitting. So it's an online process.
Nice. Very
Very quick. They do a very simple per panel permitting cost, which is, I would say, unique in the state. And so it's, and they have a very quick turnaround. So Beverly's been super supportive of solar for a long time, but all the pieces have kind of fallen into place where the town has been great for like the permitting process. It's not a barrier. It's kind of asset, I would say, at this point.
Well, good to hear.
Delightful.
Yeah. Because you don't usually hear that about government.
No.
Yeah. So that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's been great. I think a lot. I know there's a lot of innovation and that has come from the pandemic. Unfortunately, we had a worldwide pandemic, but it drove a lot of innovation through not just our industry. We saw it in the food business. We've seen it across all types of industries, but certainly our industry has benefited a ton from that. And I think a lot of towns and utility won't give quite a big shout out, but they've made some improvements.
I didn't think that the utility company plays a role in this too.
Absolutely.
The process, yeah.
Because it's called it's interconnection. So we're going to interconnect a power generating system to the grid.
Right.
Now, what they call the host, which is the homeowner or small business, is hosting that facility on their property, and it's interconnected with the grid. And that's one of the biggest things that for customers and everyone to understand is how do we get utility savings through what's called the net metering program. And that is the interaction between your host, your facility, your solar system, and the grid. And when you're making power, you're mostly making more power than your home or business can handle in real time. And it's going to flow through that new net meter, which can effectively spin backwards and reduce the kilowatt hours of demand that you pay the utility. And that electricity doesn't discriminate. It flows onto the grid and it goes for where it's called for. So it goes to your neighbors' homes or your neighboring businesses in real time. And then obviously the utility is billing them for those kilowatt hours because they're coming through the front end of their meter. But that's how homeowners and businesses are able to lower their electric bill and in a lot of cases eliminate it, because if you generate more electricity than you use in a given billing cycle, you'll actually get a credit or a negative electric bill. And those credits then kind of roll over and build up. This time of year, we're not heating, we're not cooling necessarily, and good solar production, we're building up those credits, and then takes us through into the summer. Maybe in the peak of summer, we had a lot of AC or pool pumps going and things like that, and we might use some of those credits. And then we build up more, later summer, early fall, and then it carries us into the winter where now we have a bank of real dollar amount credits that are going to automatically apply to our electric bills because our solar system is going to generate less in the winter, and we might be using a little bit more than we use at different times of year. So that's in a nutshell how you're able to realize energy savings and even eliminate your electric bill altogether in some cases. And
then how much on average would the investment, your cost be? Like how many years would it take for you to kind of recoup the cost of installation?
Gotcha. So like payback years is what you're kind of thinking of? This is a very common question. I appreciate that.
Sure.
So payback years only matters if you pay cash, right? Because what's your return on investment, right? So if you're going to outlay upfront which is we do it in a series of payments through the project, then how quickly do I recoup that investment? I would say generally we see on average it's 7 years, which is up a little bit from prior years due to incentives, right? The nature of incentives is that as adoption grows, those incentives go down and then they go away. And fortunately, we have great incentives federally with the federal tax credit, and then state with a state tax credit, as well as an income program that actually rewards folks that invest in solar with cash value payments based on the performance of their solar system. And that is the piece that has changed over the years. But we're lucky that we have it, because most states have nothing like that, right? Or very few. And we have that on most of New England can be into that program. As well as the energy savings that we talked about through the net metering program. How do we realize energy savings? So those three pieces together yield what our payback time would be. Obviously a better site, we'll say more southerly facing with no shade whatsoever, is going to knock a year or two off of that payback.
Right.
A little more challenged site, maybe getting away from south, and potentially with some shading factors or things like that limit the production, you might add a year. And the same thing with if you added a battery, that would probably add about a year to your payback time.
Right.
So I would say that one other piece to consider is if you finance the system, we're talking about a monthly payment. And so long as your monthly payment is less than what your electric bill was, the payback becomes month one.
Immediate.
Immediate
payback.
Right.
So
awesome.
that's a huge piece. And I think the industry of finance inside of the solar industry has matured a ton in the last 10 years specifically, and it makes it accessible for everyone. The states had loan programs over the years and in the past, but then there's tons of private businesses, including here locally, that in credit unions, there's a variety of factors. You can't just go to your local bank and get a solar loan.
Oh, okay.
You have to go through organizations, banks, or solar specific financing companies that's what they do.
Right.
Banks tend to be traditional, and solar is relatively new, and they don't feel like they don't have enough information, which is wild because there's the lowest default rate on solar loans than any other product in the lending industry, because you are paying less for a necessary utility. Right. So it's an absolute no-brainer, and some of the banks have started to realize that and come around. But you generally, if a customer is going to go and get financing from their local bank, it's essentially their own financing through, a home equity line of credit or some other type of loan product that they're taking personally. And then again, to us as an installer, it's a cash investment that they're making. But if they, we have to be vetted by these finance companies. We have to be accepted and able to represent them and introduce these financing options to our customers. And so there's a lot of options out there for them to be able to do that.
Now, if you had a battery, what does that do for the homeowner to add a battery to the package?
Yeah, great question. And that's been another really quickly emerging technology, and the level of adoption has grown significantly over the past 5 years, I'd say. A lot of that has to do with, again, incentives and clarity on incentives. For instance, for it be written by the IRS that it does 100% qualify for the tax credit. That's a big deal. And then further, National Grid, which we are here in Beverly, and then EverSource, which is closer to the metro area in Boston. Both of those utilities have a battery incentive that you can opt into and earn cash payments on an annual basis for the next 5 years. So when we think about batteries, we generally compare it to generators, right? So a battery is going to be a solar powered electric clean energy generator, right? So what it does allow homeowners to have is power in the event of an outage. It also allows you to leverage your solar system and that energy to be stored and potentially be released back to your home in the evenings or at night or cloudy days. So you're able to kind of accelerate the value of your solar system as well as make your home more resilient. And then folks, I think, like the idea of control, and they're able to kind of control their energy a little bit more and get away from the utility.
Sure.
Is a lot of, I think there's a big movement of that, in
yeah.
control itself.
Yeah.
So it allows you, in theory, to be a perpetually operating home without the grid in the event there's sunlight. So, excuse me, it's the times when there's no sunlight, cloudy days, where you need to manage your battery usage in a different fashion, which is all done through an app. It's super intuitive. You can even set parameters up where it makes some decisions for you, and then it's always learning as well. And then you can take it to the next level where we install smart panels, which is actually your regular main service panel where all your circuit breakers are. And then that also has the solar, the grid, the battery, and your home interacting in one place, and you're able to visualize that and then make real world decisions based on that information. So how much battery you have left based on what's going on in the home and things like that. So I would say that the one thing that I always try to point out to homeowners is that batteries, don't necessarily, they're not going to save you any money. It's pennies. It's impossible to model, but we can model like pennies can be saved. But really, it's more about resiliency, comfort, right? More people working from home at this point, and they need the internet. They want that connectivity. They might have medical devices, or they might have other reasons that they always want to be with power, and it allows you to do that.
Peace of mind, kind of.
Exactly, yeah. And people like the idea of future-proofing their home, because what's coming? Are we going to have rolling brownouts in the future? Or is, I don't want to sound catastrophic, but, we don't know what the future brings, and they want to be prepared for
Sure. My son taught English in Botswana for about a year last year, and rolling blackouts all the time. So, and there was no rhyme or reason to when it happened either, So it could be 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours.
Hard to plan on that.
So in South Africa, the same way, rolling blackouts, and the effect that has on like the economy is really, really big. 'Cause businesses obviously don't want to invest if you don't have reliable electricity.
We do see a lot of Africa in particular, in specific countries that are just starting to build electric infrastructure, are using solar, are using batteries, because it's harder to connect into the grid, where they can make their own little microgrids and have a little more control and be more resilient and avoid those blackouts by creating their own little energy grid with solar and batteries. We saw this happen, same thing in Puerto Rico, that got leveled by the hurricane. Was that 5-6 years ago? They basically decided, rather than just put the same thing back, why don't we build this smarter and into the future? And they really leveraged solar, and they have a battery program that incentivizes everyone to get solar and batteries, and they're much more resilient against those storms and then the day-to-day fluctuations in the grid usage.
And then you spoke of the aesthetics of solar panels.
Yes.
People must really kind of focus on that too, because of the way it looks on the roof and the configuration of the panels, and then you mentioned the wiring too, right? You're trying to hide the wiring sort of under, or do you? I'll let you.
No, that's a great point. And that's something that we're really known for, which we appreciate. So we hear that some folks have an opinion that solar isn't the thing that they want on their roof, and especially if it's on the front of the house, and they drive around their neighborhood and see panels and kind of what you're alluding to in like a hodgepodge way, and then you have the wiring conduit kind of spiderwebbed all over the house, and then all the equipment proudly displayed on the front of their home. And so those are things that we consider, and our homeowners, our customers appreciate that. And so we spend a lot of time talking about how we do that, how we actually attach to the roof, how we run wires, where do we put the equipment. and show them images that it doesn't need to look like that.
Right.
It is cheaper and faster and easier to do it that way, and we have just chosen not to do it that way. And so folks will maybe go through the neighborhood and say like, oh, well, that solar system looks different, and they either see our sign out front, or we've had homeowners that have had their door knocked on, and that customer asks like, who did your solar?
Yeah.
And so we've gotten referrals and references that way as
Nice.
well. Yeah. But I think it's first of all, it's not always possible. We need to have unfinished attic spaces and unfinished basement spaces to be able to manage the wires into the attic spaces. Mm-hmm. If it's vaulted ceiling, with skylights and closed cavities, the only opportunity to do that is during a major renovation or new construction, which we do work with a lot of contractors, and we do that. Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, we have a flash and weather tight junction box that goes below the solar panels and penetrates into the unfinished attic space, and then we're able to manage that wire and bring it out below the soffit area, then kind of down discreetly next to where your existing utility equipment already is coming to your house. So it looks like it's part of what's always been there.
Yeah.
And then again, if there's an unfinished basement, we'll bring that wiring into the unfinished basement, and then your inverter and any other equipment can be there as well, and make our interconnections there.
Yeah. Excuse me. And then, what other questions did I have? Oh, when a person sells their home, how would that work if they still owed on the panels?
So if they purchase them up front, like a cash purchase, like we talked about, they would have already paid them free and clear and owned them.
Yeah.
If they have a financing, there's a couple different ways to go about financing, right? There's basically loans if you own the system, or what we call third-party ownership, or what we hear about these leasing programs, right? Which is most often what's called a PPA, or power purchase agreement. Those are all owned by a third party, a bank, essentially, but it's just a financing type. All of those loans and PPAs can be transferred to the next homeowner. They just need to pass credit. And what we usually tell folks is like, well, if you just bought a X amount of $100,000 of home, I think you're probably going to pass the solar credit check.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's
like,
generally a seamless process.
Yeah.
We do help all of our customers with that transaction. So a lot of times it happens a lot, and more often, I would say. But we have the seller will reach out to us and say, hey, I'm going to sell my house. What do we need to do? And then we'll say, once you have the closing scheduled, share with us the new homeowner's contact information or make an introduction. And then we'll be able to transfer. We'll give you if you have a loan or it's a leasing product, we'll give you the email or phone number to reach out to have that transferred. Yeah. And then we'll transfer all of our manufacturing partners, and then our warranties in our system, so that it's a seamless transition.
Nice. So it probably makes a lot of sense to work with a local solar company like yourself, as opposed to like a national or like a large regional kind of, for things like of that nature and other types of things that need to be addressed.
I would say that's a great point and a great example. We do feel that way, but we are those people, right? So not to be biased, we do feel like you're going to get a better customer experience and probably feel more support. Like when you call Solaris Renewables, you're calling Danvers, Massachusetts. Yeah, and I know the names of the people that are going to answer the phone. They know who I am. They know who our customers are. So it's a little bit different experience than calling a call center somewhere in the world and getting routed around.
Sure.
That's for sure. And then I would say, in terms of the upfront process through the installation, in terms of having kind of a one-stop shop, right? So we handle everything from front to back, as opposed to a lot of other solar companies just do sales. right? They just do the consulting.
Right.
Other companies just do design and engineering. They just do the installation,
Right.
or they just do the service.
Yeah.
So you could be experiencing 3, 4, or 5 separate companies through your solar installation process, where we know how the communication drops can happen, and kind of the finger pointing and things like that, where by dealing with a local company that does what we call as EPC, or engineering, procurement, and construction. We do everything front to back, and we're able to take care of the entire life cycle of the customer through the installation process and thereafter. And so I would think, to answer your question, yes, you're going to have a totally different experience than dealing with a big regional or a big national company. And you're probably going to have a different level of quality in your product and the services that you realize as well.
Well, I saw you over at the Atomic Cafe before
Yes.
this podcast, and there was a lot of people happy to see you.
Yeah.
So.
That's very generous. I do appreciate that, though. Well, one of them was one of the Green Beverly solar coaches, who does a tremendous job and is an amazing resource. Does happen to be a friend of mine as well, and our kids go to school together, which is
great.
awesome.
Great.
And then he introduced me to someone working for a local nonprofit that is investigating different energy efficiency options for an elderly home, which I'm excited to hear more about.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome. And Dean.
I have a question.
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
I ask a question?
Yeah, please do. Please do.
Kind of a two-part question.
Sure.
How long do solar panels last, or does the solar array last?
Love it.
And how does that interact or not interact with the lifespan of a roof, like an asphalt shingle roof?
Great question. I feel like we're doing this spring has been the summer of the roof in our company. But yeah, it's a great question. It's something that everyone is considering or concerned about or wants to know about. I think that's something that we manage in every project. So the useful life, quote unquote, useful life of solar panels is when said solar panel will be operating at 70% of its original capacity. All of the panels that we use are 40 plus years. Wow. So we feel it's important that we use mounts and rails, which is what attaches to our homes and clamps onto those panels and holds them to our homes. We probably should use equipment that's going to last that long, right? So we kind of expect that the systems that we install to last for 50 years. Wow. Older roofs don't last 50 years, do they? So it used to be, I should say that I also used to be an energy auditor, and before that I was a builder and a carpenter, so I'm kind of familiar with some of this stuff as well. That roofs used to have a 25-year warranty. And the warranty, frankly, if you read it, isn't much of anything. They're usually a prorated warranty. And if they get more sun or more weather on them, they last less long. But they should last, at that time, 25 years. Then architectural shingles came in, and they generally last or have a warranty of 35 years. And now we have new architectural shingles that are lifetime, quote unquote, or 50-year transferable. So we want any of our homeowners, through us investigating it with drone and then on-site look at it, we want to make sure it has at least 10 years of life in it for us to be comfortable installing on it and living up to the warranties that we're providing for the penetrations, leak proof, and make sure that we're protecting the homeowner's property and their investment. But if it's going to be like, yeah, it looks good at 10 plus years, we want to let them know, like, at some point you're going to need to remove the system, have a new roof put on, and then we'll have to reinstall it. And there is a cost associated with that. So I do think it makes sense that it's a great question, and homeowners do ask this. And so we generally give them guidance, like, we recommend replacing your roof before we're going solar, because let's not worry about it. Let's just get a 50-year solution and leave it alone. Yep. And that's kind of the overall experience with the turnkey solution that we provide, is we want everyone to be super excited about solar up front, and then you kind of forget about it, right? Mm-hmm. You kind of becomes a part of your home, and then you kind of set it and forget it. Yep. And you're just like, oh yeah, no, another low or non-existent electric bill, you know, and that's kind of the goal is what we're trying to accomplish. So we don't want people worrying about their roofs or leaks or any of that type of stuff. So that's why we do what we do and how we do it is to make sure that we're putting homeowners at ease, protecting their investment and their property.
And if someone wanted to get in touch with Solaris Renewables, how would they do that?
I think obviously if you're in Beverly, you can always reach out to Green Beverly for Solar Coach and any of the other services that they provide for energy efficiency and sustainability, which they do a tremendous job and are well seen around Beverly with a lot of different events and messaging, which we super appreciate. And we're a proud partner of Green Beverly as well. We appreciate the relationship. Otherwise, they can reach out to us on our website at solarisrenewables.com, which is SOLARIS. And I'm not even going to spell renewables.
Done.
Renewables.com.
Okay, cool.
And our phone number, our general line is 781-270-6555. And that 781 because our old office was in Burlington and we kept the number.
Okay.
But we are located in Danvers, Mass. We also welcome customers or general public to come visit us. We're right on Route 1 South at 3 Electronics Drive. And we can come check out their products and services and meet the team as well.
Okay.
I had a chance to do that, 6 months ago?
That's right, yes.
And your warehouse there and all the product is right there. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's nice to be super local.
Yeah. And we like, a lot of our presentation and educational piece with customers is kind of, if we're doing it virtually, you can't quite touch and feel, but we have all the images so people can see this is what a mount looks like, this is what the railing, this is what the panels, this is what a battery, this is what a smart panel, and talking about that. And otherwise, if we do it in person, we have those samples so you can kind of feel and see what it really is,
Sure.
which I think goes a long ways.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, thank you, Brian.
Thank you. I appreciate the time and having me in.
Yeah, I learned a lot personally about solar today, too. And thank you, Dean.
You're welcome. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, it was good fun. And well, this has been the Sharing Wheel and Green Beverly. And we'll see you next time. Cheers. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.